Hi, Josh here from CJ Pony Parts with a 3.5-inch aluminum driveshaft from Dynotech fitting your 2015 GT Mustang with manual transmission. This all-aluminum 3.5-inch driveshaft features billet flange yokes at each end with 3150 U-joints. It's a much stronger driveshaft, gets rid of all the compliance in the factory driveshaft, and it's good for 900 plus horsepower. The back of the driveshaft eliminates the factory CV joint and puts a billet aluminum flange yoke on there with a 3150 U-joint. To make it much stronger, much less moving pieces. And today we're going to be installing it on our blue 2015 supercharged GT. Tools needed for this installation are going to be a lift or jack and jack stands, 3/8 drive ratchet, 10mm socket, 15mm socket, 18mm socket, swivel, extension, 18mm wrench, 8mm Allen key, hammer, and thread locker. Now you don't have to remove the exhaust, but we're going to show you a little better how we're going to do this installation. But if you unbolt everything, you can sneak it and snake it back out through here very easily. Now we got the car up in the air, we got the exhaust removed. It's nice to have an extra hand help you, somebody up in the car to put it in and out of gear or put the brake on and off, because you got to loosen the bolts in the drive shaft and you got to turn it occasionally. It's a lot easier than climbing in and out of the car yourself. First thing we're going to do is start removing the bolts from the back of the CV joint in the rear of your stock drive shaft. Once you have all the bolts removed from the back, you can move to the front. Next, we're going to remove 3 bolts up here. You're going to remove the 3 going through this rubber donut, also called a guibo. It's that one, and that one. Once you have these 3 bolts removed, next we're going to move back to the carrier bearing support. There's 2 bolts going up through the floor. We're going to remove those. Just be careful when you get these loose. It's the last part. You don't want this thing to fall down and hit you in the head. Now drop this. Be careful with it. Move this around a little bit. Pull it forward, get the back out. Got the back out, slide it down, slide it out. Here we have a side-by-side comparison of the 2 drive shafts, and you can obviously see why the new drive shaft is going to be so much better for performance. Look at the movement you have in this factory unit here, and you also got this rubber coupler up there. It's going to be compliant also, where now you're solid. You're obviously solid here, and there's more solid at the back than this joint with the rubber that's in there. So it's going to be a lot better for performance. You're going to put more of your power to the ground. Dynotech supplies with new hardware for the back to attach the drive shaft. First, we're going to install these 2 shorter bolts in directly opposite each other. On these provided bolts from Dynotech, you're going to want to put a little thread locker on each one, torque them down to 25 foot-pounds. The reason you have to install these 2 first is because they're actually locating pins for the rear flange of the new drive shaft. Those 2 screws you just put in go in these holes right here, and they're locating pins, and they'll use the other supplied bolts to stick in these other 4 holes that attach to the rear of the drive shaft. This hole here in the center of the flange yoke, there's a pin sticking out of the rear of the transmission. This will help index the drive shaft when you're first starting to install it. Now you get it up in place, kind of rotate it. So you get them 2 alignment screws you put in, and it'll slide up in nicely. And next you need your other 4 bolts that are provided and start bolting it in. Take your supplied hardware, just insert it in the holes. Now you just want to put these in just enough that they start to bottom out. Don't crank them down too tight. You just want to snug them up until you get the other side in. You kind of work around a crisscross pattern, make sure it tightens down nice and square. Now once you have everything snugged up in the back and nice and tight, you move on to the front. Once you have the rear installed, you're going to move on to the front and use supplied hardware in the front. You're going to get everything, put it in loosely, get it hand tight. Once everything's hand tight, kind of work your way the whole way around the drive shaft just to make sure everything tightens down squarely. Once everything is touching and the flanges come together, then you're going to want to torque everything down the spec. Once everything's tightened down and torqued to specs, your installation's finished. After installing your Dynotech 3.5-inch aluminum drive shaft in your 2015 Mustang, you'll more efficiently be able to transfer power from the front of your car to the rear of your car. And in a case like our supercharged 2015 Mustang, it's almost a necessity for durability purposes. Installation take you around 2 hours. You'll be back on the road in no time. For this and other performance parts, look to cjponyparts.com.